It started on an ordinary Saturday morning in the quiet, picture-perfect neighborhood of Willow Creek, the kind of place where lawns were manicured to a military standard, mailboxes gleamed like they'd been polished daily, and the smell of fresh mulch seemed to be permanently in the air. I had just finished my coffee when I decided it was finally time to introduce Rocky to the world. Rocky wasn't a dog or a cat or even a hamster. He was, quite literally, a pet rock. A palm-sized, smooth granite stone I'd found on a hiking trip 3 years ago, decorated with googly eyes and a little painted-on smile. He'd been a running joke among my friends for years, until I decided to make him the centerpiece of my lawn as part of a goofy art project. I placed Rocky on a tiny pedestal I'd made from reclaimed wood, right in the middle of my front yard flower bed. I thought it was harmless, even charming. But in Willow Creek, harmless didn't exist, especially not under the ever-watchful eyes of our HOA president, Karen Bloomfield. Karen was the kind of woman who could spot a chipped fence post from 50 yards away. She patrolled the neighborhood like it was her own personal kingdom, clipboard always in hand, lips always pursed. I'd clashed with her before, once over the color of my mailbox, too off-white, apparently, and once because my Halloween decorations were too frightening for the community's aesthetic. So I wasn't shocked when, not 20 minutes after I placed Rocky in the garden, I saw Karen's shadow stretch across my driveway. She stood there in her trademark pastel cardigan, tapping her pen on her clipboard as if the sound alone could summon compliance. "What is that?" she demanded, pointing toward Rocky like she'd just spotted an illegal weapon. "It's my pet rock," I said, deadpan. Her eyebrows shot up so high I thought they might leap off her forehead. "That," she hissed, "is an unauthorized lawn ornament. It violates Section 14B of the HOA bylaws regarding non-approved structures." I laughed. Big mistake. Karen's eyes narrowed like a hawk locking onto prey. "Remove it," she said, "or I'll have no choice but to escalate." Now, normally, I might have just moved Rocky inside to avoid drama. But something in her tone, the smug certainty that she could control what sat in my yard, made my spine stiffen. "Escalate all you want," I told her, and walked back into my house. That was when the war began. Later that afternoon, I spotted her crouched in front of my yard, snapping photos of Rocky from multiple angles like a crime scene investigator. I thought she'd just send them to the HOA board, but I underestimated her flair for theatrics. The following day, I was pulling weeds when I heard sirens. At first, I thought there'd have been an accident nearby, until I saw the flashing red and blue lights stop directly in front of my house. 2 police officers stepped out, scanning the street with puzzled expressions before approaching me. "Sir," one said slowly, "we got a call about an unlicensed animal." My jaw nearly hit the ground. Karen was standing smugly on the sidewalk, arms crossed, clearly enjoying the spectacle. "Officers," she said in the syrupy tone of someone pretending to be cooperative, "this object has been causing distress. It's a hazard. I believe it's against local law to keep such things outside without proper documentation." The younger officer looked from her to Rocky, blinking like he couldn't quite process what he was seeing. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "this is a rock." But Karen didn't back down. "It's not just a rock," she insisted. "It's been decorated in a way that could attract children onto private property, which poses liability concerns. I'm concerned for our safety." I could tell the officers were trying hard not to laugh, but Karen kept pressing, citing HOA rules as if they were federal law. I decided to play along. "Officers," I said solemnly, "Rocky is harmless. He doesn't bark, he doesn't bite, and I can assure you he's house-trained." The older officer actually chuckled before quickly covering it with a cough. But Karen wasn't amused. She pulled out a printed copy of the HOA rulebook and began flipping through it like a lawyer about to win a big case. "Page 47, she declared. prohibits unapproved fixtures in visible areas. The officers, clearly aware this was a civil matter at best, told her it wasn't a police issue. That's when Karen's voice went up an octave. "So you're telling me," she barked, "that anyone can just put whatever they want in their yard and it's fine? What kind of town is this?" I was enjoying the train wreck until she crossed the line. She looked directly at me and said, "If the HOA can't handle you, maybe code enforcement will, or animal control." The absurdity of calling animal control on a rock was so extreme, I almost burst out laughing. But then it hit me. She was serious. I'd seen Karen's stubborn streak before, and when she couldn't win by the rules, she'd start rewriting them. Sure enough, the next week I got a letter from the HOA citing me for displaying unapproved outdoor decor. They gave me 72 hours to remove Rocky or face daily fines. But I wasn't going to give in, not this time. I started documenting everything. Every visit Karen made to my yard, every time she trespassed to take photos, every absurd email she sent. Then I took it one step further. I turned Rocky into a local celebrity. I created an Instagram account for him, posting daily updates from his perspective. "Sunbathing today. Hope Karen doesn't call SWAT." The account blew up. Neighbors who'd never spoken to me before started leaving little hats and scarves for Rocky. Soon, Rocky had more followers than the HOA's official page, and Karen was furious. Her next move was the boldest yet. One morning, I woke to find Rocky missing. In his place was a note: "Unauthorized property removed for community compliance." My stomach dropped, not because of the rock itself, but because I knew this was theft, plain and simple. I checked my security cameras, and there she was at 5:14 a.m., wearing gloves, sneaking into my yard, and taking Rocky like she was on some covert mission. That was the moment I called the police, not to report an animal, but to report stolen property. When the officers arrived, I showed them the footage. They didn't even try to hide their laughter, but they took it seriously enough to confront her. Karen tried to play innocent, claiming she was holding it in safekeeping until the HOA board could review the matter. But the footage didn't lie. The officers told her she could either return Rocky immediately or face charges. She stormed back to her garage and reappeared with him, slamming him down on my porch like she was returning contraband. I thought that was the end of it, until the HOA board meeting 2 weeks later. Karen had petitioned to amend the bylaws to specifically ban anthropomorphic stones from all properties. She actually presented a slideshow, complete with bullet points and stock images of rocks. But this time, her theatrics backfired. The other board members, tired of her vendettas, voted her down. Some even openly mocked the proposal. A week later, a petition circulated to remove Karen as HOA president entirely, citing abuse of authority and public embarrassment to the community. She fought it tooth and nail, but when the vote came, she was out. Rocky still sits in my yard to this day, now with a small plaque at his base reading, "In loving memory of common sense." Every time I water the garden, I can't help but smile, knowing that a simple pet rock had brought down a tyrant. And in Willow Creek, that's the kind of story that will be told for years, one absurd, petty, and gloriously victorious chapter at a time.